This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, June 27th, 2017, episode 128. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. At Nicholas M. Craig is my Twitter. InfectionPodcast.com is my website. Joining me, my partner in crime, Brian Aldridge. What's going on?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, you're more than welcome to go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. Also, make sure you go check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, click join group, and we have our Discord there, which has people playing games every day. 60 plus people at any one moment, have 70 in there now. So if you go in there, it's a great opportunity to find other people that are playing games that you enjoy. And you can also, if you want notifications of when the show is going to start and you're maybe not a part of the Steam group, this is one way to get them. We do put a notice up every time we start a show to come and join us. And so that's a good way to get that. But if you are looking for notifications, actually will pop up inside of Windows, you can join our Steam group. And that's really easy to do. There's a button that says join Steam group on the upper right-hand side of the website. And it'll connect you to where just one notification comes up. We don't do it very often, so it won't be spammy. But it's a nice reminder in case you happen to be home in front of your computer and they don't pile up, like the notifications go away. So something easy to do to be able to follow the show. So I think that's about it for promotion.
Now, this is a little bit of deception, Brian. Thanks to the wonderful movie magic that we can do here at the Infection Podcast. Power of the Internet. We are actually recording this on June 22nd. And this is the first day that the H1Z1 Just Survive test server is up. You know, Brian, I do say, you know, we're kind of a big deal, right? It's no joke. Everybody knows it. I think the Just Survive team knew I was going to be out of town next week. So they gave us the test server a week early, which is going to allow us to do like a 45-minute or so recap. You and I jumped in it this morning, and we've got some screenshots. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. So what we're going to do here is we'll do 45 minutes to an hour of the Just Survive test update because it's a big deal. It's literally a completely different game. And then Brian and I will be back live on the 27th or whatever date it's going to be.
So if you're listening to this now, you will just in mere moments.
Yeah, we'll be back in 45 minutes. Yeah, and we'll be
right back.
Well, if there's anything new with Just Survive, I'll imagine there'll be some quick little hits, tests, little hot fixes or whatever, and then the rest of the week's news. So, Brian, before we do anything, before we show a screenshot, before we talk about any patched note, update, whatever, you and I play for about an hour and a half this morning. First impressions, nothing more than that. What do you think?
Okay, so initially, you start out with a little bit of gear. So you start out in what seems like a military base, and you don't really know what to do. I did read, a little bit of the notes, so I was like, oh, I know there's a vendor here somewhere. But it's more of just a starting area where you're safe. And I like that idea that people aren't getting killed like they were. I mean, we experienced it and also saw a lot of funny videos of people just being killed at spawn points. And that's kind of what we know H1Z1 as far as Just Survive. And I like the idea that you can start out, get your feet under you. And it kind of takes away from the whole troll effect of what Rust is and what H1Z1 has kind of become. And it gives you an opportunity to run around, especially for those new players, because I'm assuming they're hoping with this to kind of bring back or bring in some new players that then will see this new game and be like, oh, this is cool. So Nick's showing on the screen, there's a map. So this is the starter area. And I didn't try to run outside of this area. Is the rest of it blocked off? I
didn't try to run outside of it. I think they've got mountains blocking it up or something because I haven't seen it.
So I mean, I came right close to the edge, but I never hit the edge. But you start out where this yellow mark is, kind of the upper left side of this segment. In there is a vendor that will purchase items. I didn't see anything you could buy, but you can sell items to this vendor, and you get a credit that they have that we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's kind of an MMO feel. That's what Nick asked me. He's like, is this kind of, is this kind of like an MMO feel of what I've experienced? And I think that, this, if you think about it, this is what Sony Online is more of. I mean, This is kind of what they were. They went away from that a lot when they did H1Z1 originally, because before that, if you look at EverQuest, Planet Side 2, all these games were more of a MMO style. And then they all of a sudden went to an FPS, which Planet Side 2 is kind of an FPS, but it has kind of that MMO. You start in a base and there's some ultimate goal of, running around. It's not just let's all jump into a map and instantly shoot each other.
Yeah.
So I personally, I personally feel comfortable with it. I think this gives them a lot of flexibility for the future.
So we've talked about in the past this issue. I don't know if it's necessarily an issue. Well, actually, no, it is an issue. Let's just say what it is. This issue of there not being anything to do in Just Survive. Now, again, this is only
run around, gather stuff, and build stuff,
and die,
or PvP.
Yeah. And let's be, my opinions on this will probably be different by next Tuesday once I have more time to jump in and play. But I think it's important, and I do this with my political show. I'll record segments of my show right after an event has happened to get an opinion,
get your initial reaction.
Yeah, to get an initial, what my reaction right now. The same day, I haven't had a chance to talk with anybody else about it and go back and forth. Brian and I talked very little about it. So my initial reaction to this is there is a lot of these, Brian, you always talk about these time sinks, these things that just eat up time, and it's not a bad thing. You think, oh, eat up time, that's stupid, that's a waste of time. No, it's not. I mean,
that's
successful.
What games are.
World of Warcraft, which, again, I'm no expert in, Brian is, that game is, isn't it 95% of it time sinks?
It's nothing but time sinks. And so, if you look at it, every detail, and one of the most successful franchises in history, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
World of Warcraft and Blizzard. What if you look at what the game really is? You can take a game and it has a shell of kind of what people think it is when they first join. But if you break down what World of Warcraft is, it is nothing but time sinks. They're trying to figure out how can we just through whatever repeating things, make it so that they're willing and happy to do monotonous tasks and think that they're being, that it's a great thing through little rewards, through, all these different things. They're getting them to do these incredibly monotonous tasks. And people are thinking it's great. Working your way through dungeons, working to get a sword, a fake little sword on the internet. There's people that put hundreds of hours into getting that fake sword that has +5 of some stat on it, and now it's probably +100. But I think that that's probably what they ran into with H1Z1 Just Survive, was what can we really do to make people spend time and not be like, okay, well, that group of our clan is building a base. I'll go and gather stuff. That becomes just more monotonous. And you realize that it's monotonous when we're like, oh, we need more wood. Oh, we need more, we need more fertilizer. Oh, we need more of this. And you're just like, all right, I'm going to run out to the 10, 15 spots I know that have that. And I'll see if I can get 5 of them in the next hour. Does that pretty much sum up Just Survive previously? It's go to those 5 spots.
Yeah.
And see if you can get me some metal, or go hammer on this car with this crowbar for the next hour.
Well,
and bring back as much metal as you can.
Well, and I think, and I do want to, we do have limited time, so I do want to get into some of the updates on this itself. One thing that's important to note, and I think the biggest issue that we previously had with, there's a whole bunch of issues, but I think that the icing on the cake, the biggest problem with Just Survive is that nothing that you owned meant anything. The AR that you found, the AR that you had on your body is the same AR that you can that everybody else in the game had. The same AR that
you just had boxes and boxes.
It was the same thing. There was no. Durability. You have. I think it's like 1,500 durability for the AR or something. You have between 500 and 1,500 durability. That's it. Same color. There's no difference. Now there's a whole bunch of different weapon varieties and a whole bunch of things. We'll get into some of those, but the first thing I do want to jump into here, Brian, is the render of the map. And this is, of course, our friends over at H1Z1 have always been hooking it up with the high. This is like a 10,000 by 10,000 square pixel render from our friends over at H1Z1. If you're not already following them on Twitter, you have to, because they're tweeting out every time there's going to be a little test server update, quick fix or whatever. They'll tweet it out. They'll give you the updates. So they're at H1Z1DB.net, H1Z1DB.net on Twitter. Check them out. Check out their website. They have a whole bunch of stuff listed. They'll keep you up to date with all of the updates and all the changes throughout the week. So we've got this crazy high resolution screenshot here, Brian. And the portion that we played was this little area up here. The name of it is escaping me right now. I think it's in one of our notes. It's called
Badwater Canyon. I mean,
well, that's the whole map.
I don't remember.
This was like Pine something. It's in the notes. It's like Pine Creek or Pine Crest something or other.
Pine Crest sounds more familiar, but I don't know if that's because it's from the map before or not.
It's in it's in their big update note, but in this area, it's essentially a not a washed up. It would be a dried up reservoir area. The dam is in here. But it's a reservoir area that is no longer full. So that's kind of this concept. And you can see that there's other big portions. There's clearly something over here.
Is it Pine Mill?
Pine Mill, yes, you're on. It's Pine Mill.
Okay.
Pine Mill is this area right here. This is the start area. That's the only thing that's available on test right now to play on is this area.
If you can see that's pretty much what they have finished so far, because you can see that like the ground texture is different there
than everything else. Yeah.
Than the rest. I mean, they have the mountains and everything, but now, you can tell they have it finished everything.
Now, what we do have over here to the left of this is some type of mountainous area. There's obviously going to be some POI here. It looks like it's all spread out. This area down here, I would imagine is going to be a river. It just doesn't look like the water's textured in. We'll have some type of snaking river down here. There's a bridge, so that's obviously going to be some type of river. But
I don't know, is that a bridge? That's awfully big. Like I'm wondering if that, because it's so square. If you look at that compared to the size of the dam,
I can't tell.
Like, it seems like they're covering something up.
Maybe. I'm not sure
if there's a point of interest there that they're hiding.
But it does look like a river. I would imagine it is. It follows it. I don't know what else it would be. But there's some type of river.
It's just odd. There's 2 points that they're covering up there.
Yeah, this one too.
That are huge.
Yeah. So essentially,
they're probably trying to keep it a secret.
Essentially, what we have right now is everything south of this line there's nothing there. I mean, what they do have though, Brian, is all of these little white dots you're seeing. These are the stronghold locations that you can build out. And thanks, again, this render is so high quality. You can clearly tell this is a 2x1, another 2x1, a 1x1, just a one. That's probably a building over there, maybe. Another 2x1. You can tell all of these different tamps. There's a 2x2. There's a lot of these. I think there's over 200 of these on the map. Now it may not. It may look like, wow, these bases are right on top of each other. This is a large map.
It's a big map.
Yeah. So you can see these different stronghold locations.
And not all of them are going to be claimed. Too.
No, absolutely not.
The thing is, there's more spots than what most likely are going to be claimed on the map. I mean, it could be if they don't wipe long enough, eventually they all will be claimed. But if people aren't playing, they'll probably have it at some point where those go away. So it'd have to be the number of active players on the map. And then if you look at these, do you see any that seem like they are bigger than the rest?
The biggest I saw
2x2 seems to be the
3x3 was the largest I saw. That was the biggest one I saw. And there was a couple of those in the main spawn area. This is one of the 3x3s, I think, right here.
That looks like a 2x2 to me.
One of them is 3x3. I'm not sure which ones, but there are some that are, I think, 3x3s. Maybe not. Maybe I was looking at it wrong. But I mean, you can tell there's definitely different sizes. For example, here's just a 1, and you can see there's kind of a couple. Yep. You can see this kind of what you'd call this.
Now look to the lower right of that.
That's a city.
Do you see that?
Yeah, this is
they
a
actually
city.
Have a city in.
It's so again, the resolution is so good on this that this is a city. Looks like a couple of warehouses or something. These are all across the map, but the interesting thing to note, Brian, is that most of the map is used besides this lower left-hand side quadrant. This area down here is kind of, I don't know if they haven't got, maybe there's going to be another big thing here that they haven't populated in yet. But other than that, the whole rest of the map is got these stronghold locations all over the place. And the reason that that's important is because now that base building is not just build wherever the hell you want, just put garbage everywhere, there's going to be activity all across the map because there's going to be bases all across the map. Previously, you could build a base in the middle of nowhere, but it made it a real pain to go and do anything. You'd have to have a vehicle if you wanted to go into a city and loot. With this, there's going to be bases everywhere. So it's going to make traveling more treacherous because at any point there's a stronghold that people could be sitting up in a tower and shooting at, all of that stuff. So with that, that's the render of the map. It's not done. And I guess from that we can go on into the notes here because we do have this update, and this is called Welcome to Badwater Canyon, and it goes by line by line. It goes, I guess, topic by topic through all of the stories or through all of the main things. Brian, if you want to go through the first one or two, we'll just
so the first thing they mentioned that the big difference in this are the strongholds. These are things that we've kind of mentioned, but it's a fully modular building system now. So what they're really focusing on is creating a base that is good for, not only attacking, but being able to defend. So if you have an active clan that actually puts some time into making their base and you make it a challenge to be able to raid, that's part of the game now. It's not just, we're going to place a bunch of things next to each other. Like there's a timer that starts with these. When you start to raid, you have a certain amount of time to be able to get in there, and then it locks the raiders out. So there'll be probably a lot more opportunity for people that are into base building and into planning out the layout of bases. This will be kind of their own little side game in a way, like one of those time sinks of really mapping it out and maybe redoing sections and being like, oh, we got to figure this out. Let's, redo part here. And, this is, as I said, this is the first iteration, but that gives you an opportunity to get in there, play with it, and see what it's about. They also said that there's a lot of new pieces that they're using so that you can have that creativity because it's so modular. There's parts that make it so you can make like what they showed, a honeycomb type of effect. But they're now completely self-contained. They have that timed attack defense cycle to encourage scouting, force creative problem solving, and limit the amount of loot that can be gathered in an attack, especially with offline raids, because that was a huge problem that we've talked about before. You come back, everything would be gone. So the second that timer reaches 0, the attackers are pushed out of the stronghold by poison. It's like a poisonous gas that comes out. And then your base physically resets and rebuilds itself. So all the things that took damage during that raid go back to 100%. And during that time, it's shielded, so they can't instantly go back in. So they actually have to. And this would be nice, perhaps, that offline raid notification system.
Yes, sir.
I got raided, so then oh, somebody tried to raid it in the night, and you kind of have an idea of what's going on, where it wasn't really possible before. This actually gives time for people to log in, and they don't have to all log in within 10 minutes, or else everything is gone, which is kind of nice.
And the other thing too, Brian, with this, no game, Arc kind of attempted to do an alarm system. It didn't work. It was a total failure.
Now they just have it to where it just kind of shields it more when you're off. When everybody's gone, like it's really hard to raid.
I really hope somebody from Daybreak, if you're listening to this, I would really, and I think the community in general would love an app or a service or something that they can get a text message when
sort of notification
they're getting raided, something like that. I know it may not. It doesn't.
It's not like people are going to say. It could be when it's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
After it's completed.
Yeah.
It says a raid attempt happened. Your base is now being protected, but here's just a notification letting you know. So okay, these people are trying to come in. It will be unlocked in this amount of time. Maybe we should be online just in case they try to come back.
Yeah,
I mean that would create that sense of urgency to try to defend your base.
I really
it's more online rating.
I really wish a game would do this, because from what I've seen, I mean, there may be a game that I don't know about that does this, but the games that we've covered, Ark, I think Ark had the opportunity. They just it fell flat. Again, this may be something they do post-launch when they've got less important things to work on, because it's not really that important of a thing. But with that, I do think that's an important element. And we've been talking about that and there was a mock-up probably a year and a half ago on Reddit that was like, hey, guys, this is what your mobile app should look like. And you put these tripwires down and all this stuff. I really think something like that would be cool.
Well, see, now this pretty much has tripwires built in. Like it
absolutely.
already knows their rating.
Yeah.
Like they have a set. Like it's perfectly set up to be able to do this now. So there's not really reason they couldn't.
This was interesting, Brian. So to kind of show this off quickly, and I know we've got to fly through this. I was playing earlier today, and I heard these foghorns going off, and I saw these 3 flares in the air. This was fairly close to me while I was playing in game, and these flares were going off above a stronghold location. I walked over to it. There was like 3 walls. I mean, I guess you could say it was somebody's stronghold, but there wasn't really anything there. And when I walked over there, I do have a screenshot of it right here, but you can't really see it. If you look at this screenshot right here, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I really don't have a good way to blow it up, there is this, it says Old Pine Mill, and this is exactly it. This is this guy's base, and somebody was trying to raid it, because I saw these flares go up. So this is his base, and then I got this countdown in the upper left-hand corner, and I would imagine what happens when this ticks down is that toxic gas comes out, and it
forces
you out, and then if not, it'll eject you. Somebody came by and killed me about a minute before this ended because I wanted to see what happened. But this was that notification system. This is a cool-looking UI up here. There was that foghorn. Yep. Those flares went up. Now, the reason those flares going up, I think, is super important, Brian, is if you're anywhere near this, you can now camp this base, wait for this thing to happen, and then wait for this thing to go on, and then just kill the people when they come out. That you can totally sit.
What's the thing is, there's possibly that they're going to be coming out damaged anyways because of the gas.
Yes, absolutely.
So they may be coming out with partial health, and you can just sit there, camp the opening that they went into, wait, and pop them as they come out. I mean, it creates that kind of PvP element.
Yeah,
that is really enjoyable, and those rivalries that I'm assuming that this game will bring.
I would hope so. Yeah. So
now the next part is mainly just talking about Badwater Canyon.
Yep.
Just saying that we've crafted it with targeted loot distribution, vertically and exploration in mind. We felt it was critical to create crafted building locations for strongholds because it serves a unique gameplay needs and provides progressive desirability. So they placed hundreds of those base pads that you saw on that map. With the larger ones providing increased loot and interaction opportunities, while the smaller ones provide a hidden, more tactical approach for those who prefer to avoid conflict. So,
yeah. Now
pretty much the strongholds.
Now with this is perfect. You're watching this gameplay right now. I'm about to die right here. I only had 4 bullets, and I shot one of these guys a couple times, and then his buddy comes over and takes me out. But the life and death cycle is interesting. So you're going to notice something right here. At this point, I didn't have any coins. First of all, this is the new death screen, which looks super cool. I love this look. It tells you who killed you, tells you what weapon, tells you their health, which is great. There's a report button right on that screen if it's a hacker. Now, they say life and death. So the reason this is so important is right now in Just Survive, you die, you lose everything. The game, you start fresh, you spawn somewhere randomly or actually, I think you get to select where you spawn. Nevertheless, you spawn somewhere random, you have nothing. Yeah. So what's going to be happening with this system now is once you die, you will get the opportunity to respawn at either the nearest military base. Each region of the map, each area of the map is going to have a military base. I would think 4 to 6, maybe 7, depending on how spread out they are throughout the map. You can either spawn at one of those or at your stronghold, which was previously never available. You could never spawn back where you were. Now, the important part about this is that when you die, all of your loot that is not equipped meaning in your hotbar or in one of your 2 item slots, you get 3. You can hold 3 weapons and 2 items, plus your clothing, your body armor, that stuff. All of that, everything else can be looted off your body. What can't be looted off your body are the weapons you're holding, the items, or your gear, your backpacks, whatever. That stuff stays. Now, you may think that's a little OP, right? That stuff's just going to sit there. No. It loses durability. It becomes, or it'll go into a broken state. So the idea with this is if you, and they say it right here, or they say it at some point in here, if you find the high tier shotgun that took you days to find, it won't just simply disappear when you die, which is what happens right now. You're all you're all geared out, you're all kitted out. You die, everything is gone. You spawn with nothing. With this, now you may just have to grind back to get a couple weapon repair kits to bring the durability back up, but you won't have to go out and find that high tier shotgun again. What do you think of that mechanic?
And that's
Brian?
the thing. That's the thing that I think is good, because they're creating a sense of value, first of all, because that's one thing you would notice with the previous one is gear had no value. Everything was just pretty much worthless, right? You would look and you'd have 5 of the same rifle, 5 of the same shotgun.
Yeah.
It didn't matter which one you got. I mean, I would try to get one that had a higher durability, but other than that, they were all the same gun.
Yeah.
With this one, let's say you go out and you find a purple shotgun. That one has a higher value. It's different than getting the one that's a gray, pretty much all grayed out,
Rusted. Yeah.
and has been rusted and highly damaged. So that's going to make it so that you actually have something to work towards, or maybe those base raids. Like that's one thing that WoW does very well is you get something and then it's distributed by your clan. And part of it, they'll use a point system. They'll come up with some, or maybe it's based on who puts in the most work, who's been there the longest, whatever your ranking is. And those things are distributed. This will kind of create that sense of, hey, you earned this. And it's going to make people work harder. And it's going to make people, you would think, oh, it's not fair. Well, that's what drives people, is to get in that position where they're going to get that.
Yeah.
When everybody's the same, there's no drive to put in more or less. I think this is going to be really big for getting your clan to get those people to say, hey, I'm gonna put it, because you can go and you can either gather things and you can get money together to help buy the stronghold spot. There's everybody can put in something, and you can even play in your own play style. Maybe you like to go loot. You can just go loot and gather stuff and sell it and get coins.
Yeah.
Or if you're into, I'm going to go and try get that high end gear and get gear that people actually, will save and people will use like that. You can choose to do that as well. Or if you just want to build, I think they're making it to where each piece has has actual value, when before I'll just, run around and just gather stuff like that. Didn't really have any value. It was just more monotonous because we needed more metal. And I think that was the frustrating part. So I think this will work out well. I think that if they can get it to where, because right now the only value is skins.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
In the regular game. And that's the part that drives me crazy, because everybody values, oh, I got this skin and it does this. That's the only thing that matters, anything in the game. I think they're trying to get away from that to where the skins are cool. Like you can look a certain way, but the gear is what's going to be valuable now.
Yes.
And so if they can pull that off, it'll make it to where people enjoy playing. And you can say, hey, look at this gun I have. This thing's a really nice gun, rather than, oh, look at this panda helmet I wear now.
Yeah. So we'll kind of skip a couple things here because we're talking about it. You keep mentioning that items are worth something. Now, of course, they're worth something in the damage they do. They're worth something in their condition, but they're also worth currency. And Brian, you mentioned that trader. This is me going to that trader who is in the spawn. Actually, this is me inviting you to the group. But I will go to this trader here, and you can see I'm right-clicking on those items and selling them. And out of this, I've gained a couple hundred gold. Now, this was like a wooden club and something that was awful durability. But now you can see their items are still on my back. There's a bug with those. But those items are gone. I no longer have access to those items. I've traded them in. Now, currently, the currency is only going to be used for buying these stronghold locations across the map. The idea is, and I saw it was either a tweet or a Reddit comment earlier from, I think it was RadarX, who said that's currently the implementation. The goal is to expand that out. And again, I've never really played an MMO. I mean, I played RuneScape for a little while. I don't know if that's considered. I guess that's considered an MMO, but not very long and not very seriously. This idea of selling in-game things to an NPC and then buying other things is literally an MMO, like to the most literal sense of it. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Is to earn money. Yeah, you sell things that aren't worth very much and save up to be able to buy something that has value to you.
Yes.
And people are willing, if they get that carrot on the end of the stick, that thing that I want has value over there. And I'm rather than what I appreciate is rather than them saying, oh, you can buy PlayStation Cash or now Daybreak Cash or whatever, they're not having or like they do with Grand Theft Auto, the Shark Cash or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Shark cards. They're doing what I think games should do is not letting you buy it with real money. You have to grind in game. You have to work in game, earn it, and then you can achieve that. And it's going to get people playing this game and getting them to log in the servers and put in hours, because there is that carrot on the stick. And if you give people a carrot on the stick, they will log in and they will play for hours. When we hit a point to where it's like, I'll log in and make sure that the base is repaired. I'll log in and I'll refill, whatever you need to refill, or a harvest, whatever it is, and then you log off because it's not worth doing anything else. And you're such a high risk of losing everything if you get killed by a hacker or by whatever a roving group of people. Now there's not the sense of I don't want to log in because most likely when everybody's not on here, I'm going to lose all my stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now that's not the risk anymore. So people are more willing to just log in for a couple hours because you're not, if you log in and there's only 2 or 3 people on there from your group and you get attacked by a group of 6, well, you still have your main gear that are most important to you. And so I think that's going to keep people on and continuing to play and not rage quitting.
Absolutely. They mention here about combat, defending yourself against a zombie and other survivors is a critical part of daily life. And then they say that they've rebuilt all of the weapons from scratch, and they're introducing tiers. Now, this is what we were talking about earlier. So this is with that rarity system, the currency system, what an item is worth in game. Of course, it's worth it's worth something for you, but this is what it's worth in the game. So each weapon was given a tuning pass, of course, which is important. So what you can find now is a basic rusted AK that serves a purpose, but it's not necessarily as lethal as a tier 2 variety. So there's a whole bunch of examples of the different tier systems in here, what the items are worth, and you can see there's tier 0. I'm trying to pull this up here. Tier 0, tier 1, and tier 2, and you can see that gray that Brian was talking about was this tier 0. The tier 1 looks regular, and the tier 2 is pristine. The metal is shiny on it. So every gun is going to have this tier, and you're most likely going to find the rusted ones. What you can do typically is throw a weapon repair kit on them. They'll fire, but if Brian, if you and I are having a gun battle back and forth and we put the same amount of bullets in, I do it with the tier 0, you do it with the tier 2, you're going to kill me. Your bullets are going to do more damage. You have a better gun. So
it should be more accurate.
Absolutely.
Those are the things that I think will make the difference of, and everybody wants everything to be totally even. Well, the problem with that is then it turns into, CSGO does that very well. But when you look at it, the only difference between all these, if it's just a skin, there's not really a reason then, other than you just want something that looks different, there's not a reason to really grind for these. And I think that, I can get one that even if it just does a little bit more damage or it's a little bit more accurate, people will push to get that.
Absolutely.
That will be the true motivation in this game. And so I think it's very smart of them, because I think they looked at a lot of the problems that people were like, well, what's there to do? What's all the complaints they have. And I think they've tried to address them, like how, and sat in a conference room and figured out, what do we need to do to solve these problems?
And part of
this is the culmination of that.
Absolutely. And something I just thought of today. For example, I'm not good with the sniper, the 308. I'm not good with the sniper. I don't play snipers in games. So now I'm going through the situation in my head, Brian. Let's say I have a rusted AK with a couple rounds of ammo and 2 other guns that are good, and I come across a tier 2 308. Now I have to make the decision: do I want the 308 that's going to do significantly more damage than this rusted out piece of crap I have? I've got to make that decision now. Now there's actually a difference between the weapons. Right now, I would say I'm not going to pick up a 308 ever because I'm not good at it. I'll keep my shotgun over the 308 or my AK over the 308 because the AK is fine and it's going to do exactly the same amount of damage as your AK. Now that that's not the case, you are going. I would think most players are going to pick up and hold the highest tier weapons that they can find.
Well, and plus that's the thing is you risk losing. If you're carrying something around and you don't have it equipped,
it's gone.
You risk losing that.
Yeah.
And so that's something that it's like, well, I'm only going to carry what's important to me.
Yes.
And I'm willing to throw away the rest. And so, maybe you do get that high end weapon, even if you're like, I don't really like to shoot 308s, you're going to pick it up, carry it in your slot, and try to get it back to your base at least.
Yes, exactly. And now there's the trade-off. Now I have to either drop something or leave it in my bag for it to get killed. In most cases, you're probably going to drop it because you're not going to have the backpack space to hold, 4
a gun
weapons
in your bag.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So now there's some serious, work that has to go on for you to decide how do you want to play your game. Do you want the gun you're comfortable with that doesn't do as much damage, or the gun that you're not super comfortable with, but that is a significantly better gun? Now you've got to make that decision, which previously never existed. You just pick up a gun, it's the same. It doesn't matter. Durability is the only thing that matters. And there's weapon repair kits littering the map. So that's not even something to contemplate either.
And they'll tune that too.
I mean on the old Just Survive. On the old one.
But I'm saying even on this one, like the loot, I bet you that right now they probably have a little higher loot because they're running tests and they want people to be able to find things. From what I'm hearing, like guns will be pretty rare.
Yeah, as they should.
I was able to find guns pretty quickly.
As was I.
Currently on this map. I think they're going to go through and really make them rare to where, just like they were saying, you have a gun here that took you 3 days to find. And so, you're more likely to really value that. I think that the longer they make it take to find something, the more value it has. Just like I was saying in WoW, where you have a piece of gear that you've been grinding and spending hours, possibly hours a day trying to get, and you get it after a couple of months, that item has value to you now. Even though it's all fake and it's all on the internet, that has value. And I think that if they can pull that off, make you feel that sense of value with this, that it brings value to the game. People feel like, oh, I accomplished something.
By the way, this pad I'm staying on is a 3x3. I'm glad it was in the recording.
Okay.
But that's a big pad. You can see the breaks in the cement. So maybe those big ones were 3x3s.
Yeah, maybe they just look, but they're even, so it's hard to say.
Yeah,
but
they're probably
it could be that the other ones are 2 by, the other ones are maybe 2 by, whatever.
Yeah, or 3x2 or whatever for those ones that looked a little bit smaller. So interestingly with that, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to really try the stronghold system because it's. I wasn't playing with a group. I guess it's a little.
We'd have to put in some time.
The way to buy a stronghold is not. The way you do it is you go to the location and I guess you press E in the center of it. I never got a prompt to buy it, which I assume means that it was already purchased by somebody. So obviously that will be worked out, I'm sure. Now, moving on with this, Brian, in here. I mean, they've got, this is a completely different game. Just a couple of things that we've read through. There's some other things in here that we'll get to. This is a completely different game. This is not the same play style. And this recording is me playing with Green Man Cartoons, and he said to me later on in the session we were playing, he said, "I've got to train myself not to play this game like old H1Z1 Just Survive." And he said, because it looks exactly the same, but it's not. It's a completely different play style. It's a completely different game. So
people are gonna have to relearn what to do and like what has value, what do they save. They have no clue where to go, and I like that sense. That's kind of the tough thing of, you want to get good at a game, you want to master it, right? But some of the most fun part of a game is that initial period of not knowing where something is. I mean, we hit a point, there was early on in H1Z1 where you don't know where you're running around and you have no clue, and that's kind of where we're at with this map right now. And then you get to a point where you know every inch of the map.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I enjoy this part where you're running around, and like I kind of ran in circles for a while trying to figure out the bearings of the map and like which way was north and south.
Oh, lost Brian there. What I'm doing here while I'm setting this stuff up is I'm pulling up a couple of screenshots here. You saw this one. This is a this is a really cool sunset that is in game here. And something interesting to notice. Well, I think I've got another one. They did the change with some of the trees. You can actually see them in this screenshot here. These trees down here they're bald. They look like they're meant to be in like a cemetery in a horror game. They have no leaves on them. They're these. They've got a large base and just a couple of branches hanging off of them. They're weird. They're new. And this is that dam. And again, the concept for this what was it called? What was this area called, Brian? Pine something or
Pine Mill?
Yeah, Pine Mill. Is that it's a dried up reservoir. So this is the dam that is now broken because either the water rushed through the dam or since this area.
So what if there's a story behind that? This is something I know people tease me about this.
No, never.
There is a reason, right? This is what I see when I see that. There is a reason that's busted.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a story behind that. Did a group of people, maybe this place was infested with zombies. Maybe, like, I'm just going to brainstorm, right? Maybe they led as many of the zombies into this area down here, and then they tried to wash them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a story behind that I think now they'll have the opportunity to tell. Now there's a system where you could start maybe with a person telling you when you start the game out something that's happening, and an actual system that maybe gives you a reward for doing the quest, like an MMO would. Well, because I think that they have an opportunity to have a story again.
And piggybacking off this, I read through these notes, and the thing that really jumped out at me, there was a lot of cool stuff in here. This is under the life and death, and this is what I explained to you before. It says you will now begin your journey as a rescued survivor with limited equipment in a makeshift military base. Here you'll have the opportunity to interact with the supply liaison, Corporal Morgan, pair up with survivors, or perhaps cross paths with future foes. There was no makeshift military base. There was no you're a rescued survivor.
Well,
so
there was places here, but like they had no meaning because they were just.
But it's telling you what you are. You were You were evac'd by the government or some militia group to this military base, and more of these screenshots here. This is really weird when you spawn in. I think we forgot to mention this. There are these I don't know what you'd call these like barracks, and you've got these NPCs
snipers
that are firing at zombies that come into the base, and they actually kill them. There's the safe zone, and then there's
actually some AI.
Yes, there's AI. These snipers here are shooting at zombies that wander in. So, for example, if you run outside this military base and then run back in, the zombies will follow you. These guys will shoot at them. So there's a story here. You were evac'd by the government or evac'd by a militia group. You're a rescue, and now you're here, and now you have to journey back out and do your own thing. Again, I'm not into stories at all in games, but if this game could definitely use a little bit of story, because before it had no purpose. It was just let me play a game with my friends, and we'll just goof around. That's pretty much what it was. That was the story. Yep. Was what you did with your friends. That was it. So clearly they're hinting towards it. There's a name. Doesn't say the traitor, Lieutenant Morgan.
I mean, they could even have you start out here and like through whatever system sends you to another base and kind of send you around the map to where you learn where everything is, and you have a goal. Like, hey, I need you to take this message to this base here. Like, yeah, it's all very possible now.
Absolutely. So, Brian, in here, closing thoughts, wrapping this up. We'll talk about some more of this stuff in the next segment here, but wrapping up your initial impressions of H1Z1. How about this, Brian? Here's a question for you. How do you see this game evolving into the future now that you've played this little, it's, again, just a little bit of this new map? What do you see for this game in the future?
So what I see is this turning into something that becomes you, first of all, creating your own story, as far as you have a history now, and you're creating a story of where they mentioned where you meet people that become your friends that you can work with, or maybe you'll meet your future foes. Like they're wanting you to kind of create your own who you are on this. And part of that is you can look a certain way, you carry certain gear, letting you kind of customize and be a little more unique in this world. I think that this has a lot more life to it. I think that this has a lot more versatility when it comes to different type of play styles, because I think what we ran into with the original play styles was it ended up being a PvP game.
Yep.
Or there were some people who like to gather, or there were some people who like to build. And those were the only things, and they were all very separate. I think now this will let you log in, because before it wasn't really that good to run around and play by yourself. You were pretty much just going to die. And so I think now they're giving a little bit of motivation to where even if you're playing by yourself, you can run around, maybe get a small little place to yourself, or maybe try to hold up a place. I think that this, as far as them coming through, I think that they did, because we said, hey, this first one is going to be kind of the make or break for them. We haven't seen any real content out from them since they did the redo, since they pretty much reworked the management of Just Survive. And this is the first real content thing that they put out since. And I think that they came through in that they needed to totally start over. And I don't know how you can play this and not think, man, this is not the same game. So they came through, and that's what was needed, was a total redo, because we complained, I think personally, about almost every feature in H1Z1 Just Survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I can't think of one thing we said, hey, this is really good about this, and in the end.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion on this now is that there's a whole bunch of new leadership. The big names that stand out are Landon Montgomery, and then there's the one other guy that's always on the live streams. His name is escaping me. Brett, I think maybe is his name. And clearly, those two and other people of Just Survive have actually given the programmers, the artists, the gameplay people direction on what to do now, because
the exact same word.
There was no direction before. Looking at this, Brian, this little playtest that we've seen is hundreds of hours in boardrooms, throwing ideas back and forth, trying things. I'm not joking. This is probably hundreds of hours of concept of these awful meetings where you just sit there all day and just people throw out their ideas and then you bicker back and forth, and that's it. I mean, that's what this is the result of. A lot of time. But the thing is
if there's not that bickering back and forth, that shows that there's no passion. And
yes.
I felt like previously there was never well, why would we do this? Why would we put that in there? I feel like that question never came up. Why? Because we saw so many things and we said, why?
Yeah,
why in the world did they put that in there?
Yeah.
Why did they do this? I think now there's well, okay, let's put in a new skin. Well, why? Like, what's the purpose? Like, what's it going for? Is this part of the story? Is this part of something to drive them to play more? Like, what's the purpose? Oh, no, we just want to have, this new pair of tights in here. No. We're making a game, not a fashion show. Why do you want it in there? And I feel like that they're actually asking that question now, because everything seems to have purpose now.
Yes.
They say the currency has purpose. The combat has purpose as far as the weapon tiers. The reason that you harvest things, the bases that you build, everything has a purpose now. When I felt like before, a lot of it was just thrown in there because we need to make a game and I have a deadline to meet and I need to get this part filled here. And so I'm going to put this same building. I'm going to put loot, not really care what's where. Now there's purpose to it, and they're actually going to have to care, because let's say that they don't put a little bit of purpose with the loot system. Then these things that are supposedly rare are going to be way too many, and they're not going to be rare. Like, that takes careful balance. So they're going to have to take time to really focus and put that balance into the game of making sure the loot truly is rare, so that it keeps that value with us. So I think that it's going to be a much more hands-on process.
Absolutely.
Which is good.
So I guess my overall impressions, and I'd be curious in hearing yours, Brian, wrapping this up. I think this may be a little premature. The little bit I've played, if they take this concept, this idea, and execute on it, and bring the full map into it, keep it up to date, keep the hackers out, and if they stay, okay, we've got this framework that we just read through, all the things that are changing. If they complete 70 to 80% of that throughout the entire map, and all of that works and is in the game at or around launch, this game is going to be a success. There's no way it can't.
Yeah.
It's got a huge following. I mean, there was like 7 full test servers when I hopped on to play this morning. It's a Thursday at like 11 o'clock Eastern in the morning. Like, there should not be 7 full test servers and just survive. If they execute on this plan, this concept, this idea properly, Brian, we always talk about the engine. If people don't care about that stuff, if the game is playable and there's cool stuff to do, people will look past that. If they
care about fun first.
Exactly. People will look past that stuff. If they execute on this idea, this game is going to be a great success. It's going to be what H1Z1 I think was supposed to be 2 years ago now. 126 weeks ago is what it should have been. I think we're finally getting to that spot. And I'm excited. I'm pumped up.
I think this was what we thought. I think this is what we thought day one, that it was going to, because we saw that here was a concept here, bases and zombies and looting and doing all this stuff. Like, we thought that it was going to go in a direction, and it didn't go any direction. And so that war over time, but there's still that audience there that is sitting and waiting for this game. Go look on Reddit. There's people that have tags on their names that say, waiting for a survival game. That is what they're waiting for. They will come back. And I think that this whole new management was exactly what it took, because I think people became so disheartened with what it was. People became so frustrated, and they actually came to despise the leadership of Daybreak.
Absolutely.
To where they viewed them as an enemy, right? And they viewed all those programmers, and the programmers, I think, saw it, because they came to despise Reddit and despise the community. I think that this whole fresh reboot, and I said it early on when they first started, I said, I'm willing to give these guys a chance.
Now
they deserve an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, and again, with the premature comments, top couple of posts on Reddit here for this first one. Thank you, Daybreak, from a community member. Then the one directly below that, hey devs, thank you. Test feedback. Yeah. People, here's the thing. Brian, I can speak for you on this case. You love H1Z1. You may not love its current state, but you love the game. So do I.
Relationship.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, we love the game, and I'm sure most of the people watching the show at one point loved or still do the concept, the idea behind H1Z1. It's why you're probably watching this show for the most part. If they do this, the community is going to eat it up. I mean, what people are posting how, this guy. So I'm going to share my feelings on the new map because they're damn good. When was the last time you saw somebody on the our H1Z1 saying that anything in the game was good? Nothing. Never. You haven't seen that in the past 6 months.
Yep.
Community's gonna respond to what they like, and if they like this, it's another incentive.
But one thing that they did here differently than they did with King of the Kill, with this one, they said it is coming.
Yep.
They didn't try to keep it so secret. They said, you know what? It's a big task. We're pretty much starting from scratch. it's going to take some time. Just bear with us. And the fact that they came forward and said it honestly, when with King of the Kill, it was like, oh no, everything's good. And then all of a sudden, bam, map. You know what I'm saying? We're sitting there being like, this game is going nowhere. It's dead. Like, we haven't heard anything from the developers for months. And then all of a sudden they want to surprise you. I'm glad that they didn't do that, because imagine if they, for a year, 2 years now, would have just kept silent. There'd be so much more rage. I think that they timed, not that they timed it purposely, but I think the day that these guys started coming out and saying, hey, we realize that everything needs to start from scratch, and we're going to do that, and it's going to take time. And then they did this, which, they for the amount of work that they've done, doing a whole new map and totally reworking the whole system, that lines up. That shows you about how efficient they are.
Yes.
Which is right in line with where they, doing well. I'm not going to say it's like they're the fastest dev team, but they're doing well for the amount of work that they did. Way more than anything we ever saw out of the original Just Survive.
Because there's direction, though. I mean, that's the key. Yeah. Was when you don't tell people what you want.
They're accomplishing. They have a list of things and they're accomplishing them.
Yes.
Like, it's getting done. So if you look a year ago, when they probably started kind of redoing this, what they should have been able to do in a year is about this. But what, 7 months?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
how
long
probably
ago
6-7 months. And the other thing too, to wrap this up, they will feed, the developers, the company will feed off of this positive feedback. They are seeing these posts on Reddit and they're going, hell yeah, we got something. They like this. Now here's to the flip side, when they introduce stuff that doesn't work, hopefully the fact that they're seeing the community likes what they have right now. They can't just say, oh, the community hates everything we do. They start putting in things that don't work. Hopefully the community's vocal about it and they'll shut that stuff down. So hopefully this positive reinforcement to the developers goes a long way, because I really do think this game has a lot of potential. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, and now we'll bring you back to the show. All right, and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the second segment here of Infection. We're here live on Tuesday, June 27th, 2017. Brian, how are you? What's going on?
Doing well. Welcome back. It's been a long time since I've talked to you, it seems like.
Flawless transition. I mean, I'm in the same room, wearing the same clothing. Completely flawless. Nothing changed. It's fantastic.
So our podcast people, just don't worry. Nothing has changed. We're all good.
Yeah. So
let's jump in, because we're an hour in. So I'm going to start the giveaway really quick. Can we do that so that we're not too far behind? So this is going to be exclamation point giveaway. It'll be 30 points, and I'm giving away a copy of Killing Floor. The issue is you need to redeem it by July 8th, I think. It is a full copy, but for some reason, if you don't redeem the key by July 8th, it's like a special. So I'll put a link to it in chat. And so when you do get it, I mean, I can send you the code right away, but just make sure you don't sit there and wait until July 9th and be like, oh yeah, I forgot to redeem that. Because I did redeem it as a key, but I don't know what Steam will do. So we will find out. So Killing Floor, it's got really good ratings, very positive, recent, overall overwhelmingly positive, with about 30,000 reviews. So that says a lot about a game when on Steam you can get overwhelmingly positive with 30,000 people. So that's a very popular FPS zombie co-op survival action gore game. So very good. Anyways, so that is happening.
We've got big news, Brian. I want you to intro this. We have a pretty big thing to announce. So I want you to roll into this. This is pretty cool.
All right. So we were accepted under the Humble Bundle Associates program, or whatever they're calling it. So if you are going to purchase anything on Humble Bundle, or maybe you have a monthly subscription, you're part of the Humble Bundle monthly, I would encourage you just to click our link. It won't cost you anything extra, but if you go to our support page and you're going to do any kind of business with Humble Bundle, click our link. It'll take you to the page. And then we'll just get a little kickback from that. So we always look for ways that aren't going to cost you extra money when you use our Amazon links. Now, when you use the Humble Bundle link, that's not something that costs you any extra to do. So it's a great way to support the show. And it's just a little kickback for ourselves. Little things like that help pay for when we went to PAX and then people give donations. I mean, things like that are really nice. And this is just one way that you can support the show on something you probably will have purchased anyways. So thank you very much, Humble Bundle, and hopefully you guys use the link.
Yes. So infectionpodcast.com/support. You can get a link to our PayPal direct contribution page. We have Amazon affiliate links for like 7 different countries, and the new Humble Bundle. Now, this works for anything across Humble Bundle. So they do the daily bundles, or like the semi-weekly bundles that they do. They have the monthly Humble Bundle, or anything in the store that you buy. So anything off of the Humble Bundle website will directly support us. So we appreciate you if you do that. Help support the show. So, Brian, let's jump back into H1Z1, Just Survive. We actually had an opportunity after we recorded that segment. I'm actually live here in South Carolina as we're doing the show remotely, and we had the opportunity to go in. PHVCK got us a claim. He built us a little base, and we played around with some of that stuff. So why don't you build on your opinion of the game now that you've actually played with a base and you were able to respawn? Has anything changed from what we just heard?
So one thing that after having played a bit, we realized was that with the coins, so you get these coins, and if you want to respawn back at your base, it costs, was it 1,500 or something like that? I'm trying to remember the amount. But it costs something like 1,500 coins to be able to respawn back at your base. So I guess one thing that helps with is preventing you from constantly respawning back at your base if you're getting attacked, or that gives you something to have a reason to save up all those coins for, even if after you have your base plot, you then have the opportunity to not have to spawn back at the military base, but you can spawn back at your base for that extra charge. And then, I mean, it feels like it's definitely more difficult now because you have to run without that money, especially in the very beginning. You get killed or something happens, and then you're having to run all the way from that spawn area to wherever your base is. At some point when they unlock more of those throughout the map, you should be able to choose one that's somewhat close. But even with this small area of map, I mean, it takes you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe, to be able to run from where you spawn back to your base. And hopefully you don't get killed between that, then. There are still hackers, which is the most frustrating thing that we've run into. We saw people teleporting and just doing all the normal things. And I think for them to be successful, like, somehow they've got to figure out how to cut that down. And I don't know if H1Z1 King of the Kill has a different system currently than what Just Survive has. If there's something that they have done that they haven't implemented yet inside of Just Survive that King of the Kill has, I'm really hoping that is something that is in the works, and it's like, well, we just haven't brought it over because it is frustrating and it's disheartening to see people teleporting around on the test server and using aimbots and just doing the stuff that we're so used to seeing.
Yeah.
You always hope that at some point it'll just stop.
It's frustrating. And I think part of the issue or the reasoning at this point is I don't think I've seen this officially. Maybe I have. I've been kind of disconnected the past couple of days. So if somebody has some information, I'd be interested in hearing it. I would not be surprised if they're running 0 anti-cheat on the test server, because the goal for them is to figure out how users are playing the game, how the strongholds are working, how all those different systems are interacting. So
they don't want to accidentally ban people because there's bugs in the new system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because,
if they're not running anything, that wouldn't be surprising at all. So again, I can sit here and complain about the hackers. I don't know. It's not going to do any good. Of course, there's crappy people that are going to use exploits to try to get an upper hand on others. It's the same thing with King of the Kill. The good thing is, I think with King of the Kill, they've got a decent anti-cheat system. I mean, there are still hackers in King of the Kill, but it is drastically less than what it used to be. It's just a fact. If you go and play King of the Kill, you're not going to kill by hackers constantly like you were maybe a couple of months ago. So on that side, it's good. Hopefully they can just import that anti-cheat profile or whatever, that BattleEye profile into H1Z1 Just Survive when it's ready to go. But I mean, it sucks to get killed by a hacker, but it's at this point, it's not a game breaking issue because it's test server and we're here testing the concepts of the game, the base building, the all this other stuff, the coins respawning, new different weapon tiers. We're testing all of that different stuff. So that's the main point, not hackers.
Yeah. Well, and we'll just see. I mean, that's something that will play itself out. And I think that the developers have to know that is a big deal. I think with King of the Kill, they could get away with a little bit more because there's not that sense of loss. I mean, this is something that I remember talking about a long time ago. In H1Z1 Just Survive, there's that sense of loss. When you get killed and you lose everything, and I think that's a lot of what this new base rating system is kind of preventing, is that just sense of loss of just losing everything, being able to keep that weapon. They're kind of trying to downplay it as much as they can. But if you're constantly getting killed and having to running back and you never have gear other than what you're wearing, like you're constantly losing everything, people will get tired of that as well. So I would encourage you to, I mean, just if they're listening, I would encourage you just to focus on that, because they're going to have to figure that out, because people will give them some time. But if we get to the point like what we had, to where every 3 days your base is cleared out, people aren't going to put up with that forever.
Now, interestingly enough, Brian, I saw some comments in chat when we were doing that first pre-recorded segment. And I saw a couple of different comments about people talking about the base regeneration system and how they weren't a fan of that. Mm-hmm. Let me give you my a personal opinion on this system. I think the biggest issue with any game like Ark, H1Z1, Rust, any of those games that requires you to invest a whole bunch of time into collecting resources, to build a base, to do what to just grind with a group of people to get something that you want, to build a base, to be protected. The biggest issue with that, Ark specifically, you get raided, it is all gone. It's all gone, completely gone. Yeah. And the issue it's the same issue in H1Z1, it's the same issue in Rust. The idea I like with this system is that it entices you to, as the player, to sit down, grind for the resources, getting the nails, getting all the other supplies you need to make that base as good as it can be, the best system, the best base possible, all of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, even if you get raided, it's going to come back. I think the issue I have right now is, Brian, if you told me, hey, Nick, build a base right here, but if I'm able to destroy it, it's never going to come back. I'm going to build the lamest base ever. I'm going to put two doors on it, the 2-door security. It's just going to be an outside ring and then a room with a couple boxes in it, because I know damn well you're going to get in there at some point. So why am I going to go out and build some big elaborate base? There's no benefit, because it's going to get destroyed and blown up constantly. With this new system, now you, the player, the clan, the guild, the group, whatever you want to call yourself, you can go into the game, plan out, spend 5, 6, 7 hours planning out your massive base with all these hallways that lead to nowhere and these empty rooms and all of this other stuff. Build it, and then log off at night saying, okay, we built this awesome base. Hopefully these people can't get in here, and hopefully it takes them over 15 minutes to figure out where all of our good loot is, and then it's going to kick them out of there, and the base will be back. When we log in tomorrow morning, it's not just going to be a burning pile of garbage. There's going to be a base here when we log back in. That's the issue. VCK is saying it exactly in chat. Losing everything 5 times a day. See how long playing that game will last. That's the issue. When you invest the time, build a base, and it's gone over and over and over and over again, which is exactly what happened with the original H1Z1 Just Survive. It sucks, and nobody wants to play it because you waste your time building a base, and then it's gone every time you log in. That will no longer happen. It's not going to happen anymore.
Well, and now they have the different tiers of bases as well. I mean, this is just the first tier of base. So some people are saying, oh, it's too easy to get in them. Well, this is the wood tier. Then they'll have like metal, concrete, whatever other tiers they add. And then I think they're really going to add on to that different methods or tools that you can use to be able to raid the bases, different forms of explosives or whatever it is. They're going to try to create a mini game out of the whole base rating system to where you have to get a group of people together and you have to coordinate, and you're treating it kind of like a raid that you would do in other types of games of coordinating and saying, all right, we got to blow down this door. All right, we got to try to get into these inner doors and work our way through and try to find if we can figure out where they have things stored inside the base in this period of time. That will be enough of a challenge by itself. Right now, nobody really has a base that's built in the honeycomb, true honeycomb style. So we can't really see what the base rating is really like. Everybody just has either outside walls or barely anything. So we're not even seeing what the extent the base rating will go to.
Here's PH's comment from chat, and it's exactly what I was just going to say. This is the balance where it's still fun to raid things with your group and do whatever, and get raided, and you don't end up quitting playing. This literally happened to us with Ark.
Yep.
We got raided, everything was destroyed, we never played again. Like, that was literally what happened with Ark.
Yeah, not on a public server.
Kicked so bad. They destroyed us so bad that we just quit playing. We had a group of probably 15 active people that would play every day. We all just quit. It was over. We lost. Everything was gone.
Because you lost months of work, months of progress in less than an hour. I mean, months of, not just saying months of like, oh, I went on for an hour. I'm talking about months of people playing 6 hours a day. A lot of times, just constant playing, and that instantly gone. All those dinosaurs that you spent all that time taming, instantly gone. Everything. That's the thing that was still possible in H1Z1 as well. You could lose all that stuff. You could lose. They could destroy if they really didn't like you. They could destroy all your walls down to the foundation, and you would lose everything. And so that's something I think they're really trying to stop, to make it to where raiding is not that vindictive. I'm going to make you miserable. I'm going to destroy everything you have. I'm going to run you off the server type of raiding. Turned it into, hey, we raided. We figured out your base design. We figured out how to overcome what you guys had built. Type of a more of a friendly type of a system that you can get with that. I think that this is a much better system.
I think that this is a good step in the direction for a new system. Again, I'll say the same thing last week. Nobody has played this game long enough in terms of time, in terms of player count, in terms of reliable play structure with the group. Nobody has played this game long enough to make any conclusions on if any of these systems are actually going to work or not work when they're implemented into a live server. It's too new. There's not enough people playing it. You're probably not playing with your entire group. So again, I'm going to hold my overall judgment on all of these systems until I've actually got a decent conclusion to make. Because right now, for example, if you asked me right now, Brian, Nick, what do you think of this game? I would say I freaking love it. I love these new systems. This is exactly what H1Z1 needs. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. Let's just see what happens with it. But nobody knows. I mean, they could very well run this game to the ground as quickly as they brought it out last week. They could very well do that. So I have no idea what the end goal is what the end game is going to look like. I have no clue. But I'm hopeful because I played it this week. I played it until 2:30 in the morning, Friday night or Saturday morning or something. I was up with Valp 1. Adding outer walls to our base until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I have not played H1Z1 at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. It's probably been a year. It's probably been a year since I've done that. But I was up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, adding outside walls on the test server. Let me remind you, in H1Z1 Just Survive. So let's just put that in perspective for everybody.
Well, and that's one thing too with this one. You've also got to take into account that the fact that you didn't instantly build your base in a day. you're sitting there and you're actually taking time, and it's taking you more than, okay, we got this foundation built. I mean, we could get a base built in an afternoon previously. Now it's like I'm building and I'm slowly forming my base. It's not just, oh, we got enough to make this foundation. All right, now throw up a couple of the things around the outside. Okay, we're good. Now it's okay. I got enough for this wall. And you're doing that the not necessarily honeycomb style, but the modular style of getting the outside wall formed. Okay, now what are we going to do inside? And you could spend a good week with a decent sized group still making that base, like an actual week of we're getting supplies, and it still probably wouldn't be to what you're wanting. It still wouldn't be to the point where you'd say it's done. So I think that they've got a lot more, and that's that time sink. They didn't have time sinks. The fact that it takes you possibly a week to build a base that you might be happy with is proof that there's time sinks in there now when we didn't have any. You in a couple days, you could be to where, oh, we're kind of maxed out. Like, what are we going to do now previously?
Yeah. People are mentioning cheaters and stuff like that. Again, I'm not going to throw that into my recommendation or my description of the game at this point. But the key thing this is the way I see it. And I think I said it in chat. I was talking to Donnie during the pre-recorded segment of the first half of the show. We saw what they tried before. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. It was a joke. This is something new. Let's just let it play out. I mean, what's the worst? We already had a steaming pile of trash. We can't get any worse than that. Let's give this a try. If this is just a pile of trash that's not on fire, okay, we're working towards something. But we had a pile of garbage beforehand. Let's see if this turns into something else. Let's just give it a chance. It's been less than 7 days.
And
let's just see what happens.
One thing on the hacker note is that they had designed it without thinking of hackers in mind. Previously, they had designed it in a way that was so hard to defend against. And hacking and defending against hackers was always an afterthought. And we said, well, why aren't you thinking of this way? Is thinking of, first of all, you're creating a system that realizes when your base is being raided, like it triggers at some point. They can then start doing checks that say, well, did this person come in through a gate, or did they come in through breaking down a wall? If they didn't, well, how'd they get in? Okay, if they did break something down, how much damage did they do to that wall? Like, how did they break it down? Did they do a magic bullet and instantly break it? They can start looking at those things to figure out how bases are being raided, when before, if someone flew in the top, it really didn't have any way of knowing if they jumped in with a vehicle. It didn't know if they blew down a wall. Like, there was nothing to protect against these sort of things. So I think this gives them a little more of an opportunity. Opportunity gives them better tools to be able to go in and actually do a little bit of detection of what are these people doing. I mean, the only way they could tell before was with a closed building that had a door on it. Did someone enter through that? If they didn't enter through it, then it would say, oh, you're a hacker. That was the only way they had protection. So now, hopefully, if you can get a sealed base to where everything is closed, people shouldn't be coming in through the top. We'll have to see what they do. But I think this gives them a little bit of a chance to at least have a little bit of a detection and possible prevention.
And, I've got to remind you, Brian, and I've got to remind myself, the previous version of H1Z1 Just Survive did not have roofs. You could not have a closed base. You had to have open areas. It was literally impossible. This new one has got a system where you can
get in no matter what.
Absolutely.
You could have somebody who's flying and drop in, and the server will be like, oh, yeah, they're supposed to be here.
Yeah. And it was, again, I love your hypothesis, Brian, that they are now designing this new system, this new base building system around the fact that people are going to hack and destroy other people's experiences. Because if they build the game around that and they can nip some of those flaws right in the butt at the start, instead of having to find some half-assed solution 6 months down the road, we are in a much better place. Because previously, nobody was playing H1Z1 Just Survive. Well, I'm all for giving this one a try. we have some update notes for it. We've got the game giveaway to do it. So let's do the game giveaway, and we'll get into some of the update notes that we had for the Just Survive test server this week.
All right, very good. So let's go ahead and close this. And Zactoman, he's actually from Idaho. So this is like the only other person that listens to the podcast that I've met that's actually in my state. So congratulations, Zactoman. And he makes one thing that he does is he actually makes models, like really high precision, like models, figurines, things like that. That's what the Zacto is for, the Zacto knife in his name. So kind of a cool hobby, or it's just his job. So he sits there making really like realistic models all day. So kind of cool.
Yep.
Anyways,
2 people in the entire state.
I will
both of them are listening to the Infection podcast right now.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty close. So congratulations, Zactoman.
Awesome.
Right. So do we want to do you want to go in some notes, or what do you want to do?
Yes, and I have to apologize.
They have the next steps. I don't know if you saw those.
Yes, I do have to apologize to everybody listening. We've got about a 3 or 4 second delay between Brian and myself. So trying to talk.
We're trying to time it where it doesn't seem like it's happening. So I'll come in a little early, which doesn't always work, so that we don't have so much of like a 2-second delay. So once in a while we mess up, but hey, we're working on it.
Yeah, so we've got the next steps on test server, which is a post on Reddit here that I've got pulled up. There's a couple of things here that they say the following issues have been fixed and they will be included in a pending test. So, we're going to get some rough builds to the test server. It's the way it is. They have a test environment, but I guess it's not really. It doesn't matter. I want to play these things, so I'm not expecting them to be bug-free. So a couple of things that they did fix. The first one, which was a big issue, was fixed an issue with certain base pads not allowing you to respawn after you died. This seems to be something that is different based on when you log in and when you log out. This base that we were playing on Thursday or Friday of last week couldn't respawn. I logged out for a couple of hours, logged back in, and was able to respawn at the base. So I don't know if it's persistent based on logins, but hopefully they're working on that so that you can respawn at every base pad or every stronghold that you're part of. You'll have the option to respawn there. Another fix: melee weapons will now take proper durability loss when meleeing in-game loot. So there was a durability issue with those items. Fixed a collision issue with the hammer and hatchet that made them difficult to loot, so they would maybe clip through the ground so you couldn't pick them up. All blade weapons now allow for harvesting meat. Only a couple did before. I think it was the hunting knife was the only one that let you do it, and the shiv. The axe, none of those other bladed objects or weapons would allow you to do those, which is good for harvesting food. Fixed an issue with flares firing while shielded and after a raid. So now the flares only appropriately fire off at the beginning of a raid. That was starting. This was an issue. These flares would go off for felt like 40 minutes. They would start at the beginning of the raid and they would just go on forever and ever and ever. So with that, it's good that hopefully that's getting fixed. And then the flares now attract zombies, which I guess they didn't before. So if your base is being raided, this is a good thing for you and a bad thing for you. The good thing is hopefully it can the swarm of zombies could potentially come and kill some of the people raiding your base. But on the flip side, if you're away and trying to get back to your base, you may now have a swarm of zombies or a horde of zombies waiting at your front door. So there could be some issues with that. It's kind of a double-edged sword. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Now, going on with this Reddit post, they have a list of issues, a list of things that they know exists. They've gotten feedback from Reddit, and they're currently working on them. And there's some big ones in here. The first one is that items dropped from a container resulting in placeholder item loot that you couldn't pick up before. That was an issue. You could drop something and it would just become this kind of vegetable item. You couldn't do anything with it. It was just a placeholder. So that was a huge issue. The stamina bug is back. Stamina does not regain correctly. You have to log out and log back in for your stamina to regenerate, which is, of course, a huge pain. The raid defense timer display remains on after a raid. Those timers right now are completely screwed up. They're in the upper left or right hand corner of the screen. So we'll see what happens with those. They're kind of in a weird spot. Stash improvements are being made. I wish that they would delve a little bit deeper into what those improvements are. But I guess we'll see that once the game is once they work on it and it's implemented in the test server. Hopefully, we see what those improvements are. Phantom weapons. Somebody actually commented on that on the video that I showed earlier. I had like 6 weapons on my back. The phantom weapons are back. They're aware of it. They're working on it. A pickaxe issue. Just doesn't say what it is. They said they thought they had a fix for it, but they didn't. An arrow issue. There was a duping bug that they're aware of that they also need to fix. And there is also an issue where you can currently have permissions for multiple strongholds, but this is incorrect. You are not intended to be associated with more than one stronghold at a time. This will be changing. We'll also be adding a verification confirmation when you are added to the permissions, so you'll be able to control which stronghold you want to be associated with. So this is good. I did see an issue. I did kind of come up with an issue in my head earlier of, Brian, on servers having people act like they're fresh spawns when they're part of another group, getting access to your base to steal all of your stuff and then run back to their base and deposit it all. That's still possible, of course. But now that you don't have base access to multiple strongholds. You are limited to your group, your clan's stronghold, which is good. Because that, of course, could be a huge issue. And then they say AI in general is a big issue. There's a whole bunch of issues with AI. For example, I don't think the bears work currently in the test server. They just stand there. They get up on their hind legs and they stand. They don't do much. So they're going to be working on AI. But all in all, this is a post from Landon Montgomery on Reddit. He seems positive. The feedback seems positive. Most of the major issues that I came across in the game are on this list. They're aware of them. They're working towards them. I don't have much to complain about sitting here right now.
Well, and this is something that we've always said. You got to look at the progress. Like, this is day one. They've released something. I want to see where they go from here. As he does he stay communicating? Does he stay like this, informing us, saying, here's what we're working on, here's bugs that we know exist, or do they go silent? Because the old management that frustrated us so much would just go silent for a month, 2 months at a time. And I think that an important part of this, now that they have a player base that's playing again, now that they have it to where they're going to be adding content, and it's not going to be hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. As soon as it's ready, we'll have it released. Where now they have something that's about to be released, and then they'll start rolling out fixes to that, rolling out expansions to that with the map, the rolling out the new content. I just think it's really important. If they are listening, keep the communication going. You can get frustrated with people on Reddit and what people say, but regardless, just keep the communication open to where you're saying, hey, here's the issues, here's what we're working on, here's what we fixed. That's the stuff that we want to see, because that's what before just went silent, and you just never knew what they were working on, and you never knew if they were working on anything, and it would just cause people to get incredibly aggravated. So hopefully this, and it seems like so far that he has. This is one of the longest periods of time that we had one person actually giving updates and saying things. It seems like one person would do it for 3 months, or as far as just even talking to the community, and then they disappear for a while. And so Landon's been doing it since they announced him. He's been the one saying, hey, we got stuff coming. It's been the same person. So hopefully he continues to do that. And, until he doesn't, I'll give him that benefit of the doubt that rather than saying, oh, before they've always done this, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he is going to do it. and
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is H1Z1, the Just Survive test server. I recommend you jump into it. I will have the current player numbers for those a little bit later on in the show towards the end. But overall, I recommend you hop in and play it. You can listen to us and we'll give you our opinions, but you really need to play it. And I think, because I do want to move on from this, but I do think you would want to play this with a group of other people. Solo, it's pretty limited. You pretty much just die over and over again because you don't have anything to work towards. So maybe get a group of friends together and give this a try. I think you'll like it. So check that out. H1Z1
opportunity to join us as well.
Oh yes, of course.
If you don't have a group, join our Discord, jump into our Steam group, and we've got people we have lots of people that have this game in our group. As I said, we have like 60 to 70 people a lot of times in our Discord channel. And almost all of those people have H1Z1. So if you're looking for a group of people to play with, this is a really good place to start.
Absolutely.
And maybe we'll get some of those old people back too.
Yes, of course, because lots of old members from our group that have vanished in times past. Let's jump into Battlegrounds. We had a couple of different updates for Battlegrounds this week. The first thing here is a Week 12 update. This is actually from last week. I think it was Wednesday of last week when this came out. So a couple of things in here I want to read through quick. The first thing is that this is on the test server. It's already live, but this patch was deployed last Thursday. So a couple of the things in this that they were working on. The first thing was server performance. Resolved an issue with server performance dropping drastically in certain circumstances. They don't elaborate what those means, but there was a whole bunch of either areas across the map where the game would just kind of go to crap, and that could have been a server performance issue. So hopefully we'll see those improvements. A couple of client performance improvements as well. Rendering performance of characters, client performance during ranged combat, rendering performance of vehicles, motorbikes, and boats at a distance, and the improved rendering performance of weapon effects at a distance as well. And then just a couple of bug fixes in here, like a client crash when you were changing character appearance, prevented users from removing shadows. This is a big one by changing Steam launch options, because if you remove the shadows in the game, it is drastically easier to see people that are far away. So people were still able to kind of get around that system a little bit, but that appears to be fixed now. And then just a couple of other miscellaneous bugs, clothing sometimes going through scopes and stuff like that. Nothing major with this Week 12 update, but going on into the future, we had this just released today. This was the third early access monthly update. And if you remember this, going into this game, they said that they were going to do weekly patches that were going to be server and client performance issues, performance fixes, improvements. But then every month, every 4 weeks, they would do a massive content update. Now, this one, maybe not so much content update, but there are a couple of massive things in here that I want to jump into. So the first thing that they note right off the top here is that they say, H1Z1 is not the only game that deals with hackers. Every single one of these online games deals with hackers, and Battlegrounds is exactly the same way. They've said that over the last 3 months, they have been working and have banned 25,000+ users. That is a lot of people over just a short few 3 months here. So 25,000+ users, which is crazy. And they say that they're working daily with BattleEye to work on the new protections and detections for cheats appearing on the market, which is exactly what they need to be doing. They need to be going to these Chinese cheat sites, purchasing them for $9, seeing what they do, and then patching that hole. And I think that was a big issue that H1Z1 was lacking to do, is they just need to buy the cheats. Like, Daybreak just needs to go out, and I think they're doing that now. Go to these Chinese forums and just buy the damn cheats. If you spend $100 on cheats, who cares? It's a business. It's a cost of doing business in a multiplayer game. Buy the cheats, figure out what they do, and deal with it. And Battlegrounds is doing that, and it's going to work out great for them. Going on with this update, a couple of other things in here. The first thing is they're going to be doing some adjusting to the loot balances in the game. They've been collecting a whole bunch of data on how people play, how they loot, where they move, who they shoot at, whole bunch of data. They have a data science team, which is really cool. I hope that they start releasing some of this information in terms of like infographics, because I'd be fascinated to see some of it. But going on with this, they say, so currently right now, it says due to a bug, they've been experiencing issues where some items either spawned more or less than intended. They said that this popped up when they were developing the custom games that they have in there. So something was going on with their loot tables, and they've made some adjustments to those, and hopefully that is fixed. But they do stress that with this fix, this is not going to be the final loot fix. He said they say that there will be multiple other loot table adjustments or loot spawn changes within the early access version of the game before it hits live. So that's not, that's a good sign. What you play right now in game is not the final version of it. Moving on with this, a couple of updates that I want to jump into. The first couple ones are really important. This is kind of for more maybe bandwidth limited people. Improved network performance by reducing the amount of data being sent between the server to the client. Doesn't say how much, but I would think it's enough that they would put it in here. So hopefully it's a big enough note. Reduce network lag by preventing a large amount of data from being sent from the server to the client simultaneously. So they're putting some type of throttle in the way with that, which is good. And then a couple of client performance issues. This is the biggest thing in this update, in my opinion, Brian. Fixed an issue of frame drop when other characters were around by optimizing nearby characters. If I have not been killed 30 times in Battlegrounds by seeing somebody and then having having my frame rate drop from 50 to 13 for 3 seconds. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy the amount of times I've been killed by this. It specifically happens to me. I notice when I'm separated with the person, if I'm doing duos and I'm separated from my partner, and I see somebody, out of a stairwell or out of a window, I go forward towards them and I get this weird lag spike. So they're noting that this is an issue and that they fixed it, which is huge. Because it really, the last time I played Battlegrounds, that's how I died the last time, and it pissed me off enough that I stopped playing. Because the guy was right in front of me, but my game shuttered and he killed me because my game pretty much stopped working. And it's just really, really frustrating. A couple of other client performance things. Fixed an issue of a frame drop when vehicles were around. So kind of the same thing. Vehicles and characters being near each other could sometimes cause a frame issue. Optimized the starting airplane and the care package airplane. Improved rendering performance of weapons from far off. Made improvements to the weapon animations. Optimized many in-game effects, including the red zone bombing effect. Just improved. I don't know what that means. Improved many UI features. Improved features regarding rainy weather, which I think was good in here. Now, we do have a couple of new items, Brian, and my webpage will not load past that. Do you have that pulled up? What are the new items that they're adding?
Yeah, so they added the Groza. So the Groza is an AR chamber, so it's 7.62 ammo, and can only be acquired in care packages. They added the P18C, which is a pistol chambered for 9mm ammo with a full auto fire mode. So those are the two new weapons that they've added. So you should be able to go and look for that P18C now. The Vector and the UMP now support burst mode. So before you couldn't change those. So in game, you can change what type of firing mode. So you can put a single fire, burst mode. Some of them you can do full auto on. So now Vector and UMP both have burst mode rather than just, I think before they were full auto or single fire only. And so now you can actually switch that out. One thing, and that's a big thing with the Vector by default holds 13 rounds. So if you were doing full auto, it seems like the thing was just empty instantly. But it's not a gun that you would run on single fire mode. So it's either like within half a second to a second, the whole clip is gone, or you're doing single shots, but you aren't going to kill the person. So now at least you can do a couple burst fires to get that going. You can now pick up items while moving. The interaction animation will not force you to stop anymore, but makes you walk more slowly. You may interact with doors, items, and or vehicles while reloading now. It says reloads will be canceled with such interactions. So now you don't get stuck in that reloading animation, not being able to move. You can actually interact with that door. It will stop the reload, but you'll be able to open the door or get into the vehicle. The screens will be gradually desaturated based on remaining health during the revive state. Blood effects does not appear during the revive state anymore. Adjusted kill count system in duo and squad modes. A person knocking an opponent out will receive a kill count regardless of the actual killer. So that's a little bit better system. And they adjusted the F key interaction to prioritize the revive action in certain cases. You can now pull out pistols faster. Fire mode can no longer be switched during a reload. Adjusted the play area to spawn more evenly within a circle so that you can play. So the play area does not appear in the center so frequently. So this should kind of move it around the map a little bit more. Adjusted default quantities to be selected at 1 when pressing control key at inventory to partially drop or pick up items. So now it has a default of 1 if you're doing a it's hold down control key when you're dragging something. Adjusted the motorcycle with sidecar to move more smoothly. You can no longer switch to and from prone while picking up items. Red dot sight is now attachable to pistols except for the revolver. And then they increased the recoil on the UMP. Now, in the world, they added 2 new weather settings. So they have sunset and clear skies. Because we're doing a remote show, it's kind of difficult to show screenshots, but we can add that in our show notes. I did see some examples of that. They actually, I think we have it in last week's show notes of just him showing it off, but it wasn't in the game yet. So we do have a link to that. They adjusted the loot balance for certain items. The VSS will no longer be found in care packages. It will remain to be spawned in the map. And at a low probability, you will be able to acquire AR silencers, SR silencers, and 4X scopes in care packages now. Spawn rates of the UMP has been slightly decreased, and the Uzi has been increased. The level 1 helmet was being spawned at a much higher rate than the level 1 vest, and the spawn rates were adjusted so that both items will be spawned at a very similar rate. They increased the spawn rate of items in regions and buildings with relatively low spawn rates. They changed the name of certain weapon attachments. So you may notice that when you're in game, they're not named the same thing anymore. They adjusted the spawn time of vehicles and speedboats so that they can be seen from farther away. And one thing that this really helps with is when you're doing the parachute sequence. Sometimes we're like, is there a vehicle there? Is there a boat there? And you're waiting, and it is finally, it spawns at the last second. So this will help you to be able to plan where you're landing a little bit from that parachute scene, because they will spawn in sooner. They improved the starting airplanes. The cargo door opens when participants get ejected from the airplane. Optimize the lighting inside and outside of the airplane. And then they have some UI things. I don't know if we want to go over that. UI and then bug fixes after that. I don't know if you saw anything in there. One thing they did is adjusted the direction of teammate icons to the direction the teammate is facing. So you can tell that now as well. So
yeah.
Other than that, not anything big. So I think that's the main things for it. One thing I did want to mention is that one of our listeners actually has a podcast dedicated to Battlegrounds. So it's Dan. I'll have a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. But I don't know if it's necessarily a podcast, it's a YouTube channel. I call it a podcast, but if you want to check that out, I've been listening. I'm on episode 2 right now and catching up to current, but he does it at least once a week, I think. So if you want to check that out, we'll have a link in our show notes and you can give it a listen. And
yes.
Hot Drop.
Yes, of course. So check out Dan's podcast, Hot Drop. He's in Discord, I believe, as well. So check it out, give his video a like or comment, and let him know that the boys from Infection sent you over to check it out. So yes, send our regards for us. Now, Brian, I mentioned at the beginning of the content update here for Battlegrounds that they had banned 25,000 plus players. Yeah. That's crazy to me. And I read an article here on PC Gamer about it. And they say that was 25,000 players is a little more than 0.6% of the 4 million copies of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds sold. It's just crazy the amount of people that they've banned in such a short time. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, if you look at that 25,000, that shows that something is working with their anti-cheat. Or it means that there's an incredible number of hackers. And so, but I'm assuming that, I don't have that frustration that I used to have with H1Z1 of just, it felt like every 3 kills had to have been a hacker. I mean, that's just how it felt. I don't run into that here. So I think that they are catching a lot of them. So hopefully that's a good sign that 25,000 means that is a high percentage of the hackers. You never really know. I mean, there's no way to have an accurate estimate because the goal of a hacker is to be undetected. Some of them. It's the goal is to remain undetected. So hopefully this is a sign that they are keeping on top of it. Hackers is not going to become a major issue, and it sends out a kind of a warning shot to the hackers that, hey, if you're buying this game, one thing that I do appreciate and that I don't, people may not agree with, is that it wasn't on the Humble sale, or it's not the Humble sale. It wasn't on the Steam summer sale. You could say, oh, that's too bad, I didn't get it. Well, the opposite of that is a bunch of hackers didn't get it at half price. And,
yes, sir.
They're having to get it at the full price as well. So there's an upside to that even though you maybe didn't get a copy, if you don't have it already, at a discounted price, it probably will lead to a better experience inside the game. Just the fact that everybody's not able to get it at a much cheaper price right now and building up keys for it. So,
yeah.
I think, do you, as far as time wise, do you have a preference? I mean, Ark had a pretty big update. Do you want me to go into that really quick, or do you want to move on to something else?
So I would do your Ark. Let's do the big Ark update, and then I do want to get into the Steam summer sale. I want to go through the list of games that are on sale. So Brian's going to do the big update for Ark this week, and then we've got a whole bunch of games that are on sale until July 5th for the summer sale. So go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing I was going to mention as well, we have some notes. Actually, I'll come to cover one thing that we won't go into the details of, but I'll just mention it now since we're not going to be covering it. Conan Exiles put out a notification that they are having just a gigantic update coming out soon, because they upgraded from, since I talk about this kind of stuff a lot, they upgraded from Unreal 4.12 to 4.15 in this version that they're going to right now. So this will be a really big update. And personally, since I work with Unreal, I know that was a lot of improvements from 4.12 to 4.15 as well. And so that's something that they're going to be rolling out. And so we'll have a link to it where they discuss it, but it's just that they were talking about that for their upcoming update. And that's why it's delaying a little bit, because they are doing such a big jump on that. As far as Ark, we have the 259.0 update. We said that there wasn't going to really be any major updates as far as content, but they are very hard at work still doing updates for this. So this is the 259.0. They did do a one-time player respec to all characters. So if you log in and you haven't logged in for a while, you will notice that you need to go and respec your characters. They did add a tech Tapajara saddle. So they have the new tech tier for that. And then they have a new skill, crafting skill, where it replaces crafting speed. So it's called crafting skill now. And that replaces crafting speed. And it says crafting skill increases crafted items quality by 33% for 100 points in crafting skill. So that is interesting that it says crafting item quality has been increased. So your crafting skill increases the quality, not just the speed at which you craft. So that's a new mechanic. A new feature is the corpse locator. And so this is something that used to be a mod. But now on death, you can have a beam of light that shoots into the sky to help the player locate where they died, which can be an incredibly frustrating thing when you can't find your body, especially when it's dark. So that's kind of a cool thing you can turn on your server. They have a new host option called Disable Structure Placement Collision. So it allows you pretty much to place anything regardless of how it's clipping into the terrain, give you a little more freedom on placing items. A new host option of use single player settings. So this edits all game settings to be more balanced for an individual player experience. So this kind of encourages on a server people playing single player, not grouping up so much. New host option, fast decay. So this makes it so you can set a constant decay period for fast decay structures. So you can say, something will decay in this exact amount of time. A new kill, death, speech, and talking icon has been added. Implemented hibernation from console to PC. So, which introduced over 500 megabytes saved in memory for spawning dinos. So the hibernation is when nobody's around them, the dinosaurs kind of go into a hibernate mode to save resources. So they had it on console that they were using this. Now they're using the PC this on PC to have better improvements. Fixed graphical issue with crops appearing massive. They fixed a player ragdoll becoming malformed when falling from great heights. And looking at this, there's no way I'm going to cover all these. So this is after I read this earlier, and this is probably about 10 pages, maybe 5 pages, 5 to 10 pages, depending on how you print it. But it's a really big list of changes. I mean, that was just the beginning of it. After this, it's a ton of fixed things, and there's no way. They have one section that's dedicated to kind of more player fixes. Then they have a thing that's for dyno fixes, huge amount of dyno fixes. And so I'm not even going to try to finish them because I'll be reading it until the end of our time. But I would encourage you, we do have a link to it. This is 259.0, which is a really big update. After that, they just have fixes for, gameplay and things like that. So they have 259.1. They have 259.21. I'm not going to go into what they are because they're mostly just fixes. 259.3, 259.31, 259.32, and 259.35. So those are all, the ones after that are all fixes. The one that's a 259.0, that had actual new content. So that's mainly what I wanted to kind of cover. But I'm not going to read because I'd be reading a long time. So we'll save that from happening.
Brian hates reading, confirmed.
So
heard it here first.
I mean, I don't want to, I mean, if people that are listening saw the length of it, and that's just that is a testament to this development company. I mean, it's amazing the amount that they get fixed. The patch notes that they have there is, just to be honest, more than we've seen in 6 months from Daybreak for like King of the Kill. I mean, if you add up the patch notes from that one patch that they've done in a week, which is less than a week because they've done a bunch since then, it's an incredible amount. So congratulations to them. You can tell they're really working overtime. We figured maybe they can relax a little bit, no more big content. But the thing is they're working at that same pace, making sure that we're going to have as seamless of a launch on the 8th as possible. And this is going to be August 8th that they're going to. And one thing that I will note that we are planning on doing a server, or maybe even going, if they do a wipe or have fresh servers or something, having Infection all try to play together on the 8th, and we'll see what we do from there. But that'll be a huge change in how it's structured and everything. Everything will be redone on the 8th. So I know a lot of big people have been asking me, when are we going to play Arc? When are we going to play Arc? I know Infection and I know our group, they will play for 2 weeks straight and they'll get tired of it. And then when the 8th comes around, they'll say, I don't want to play it anymore. We just played that. And so I'm holding to my guns on this, that we will not be playing as a group officially until release, so that everyone has that same interest to be able to play and everyone will play together. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
And that's why I'm being a big jerk about it. I'm sorry for people that are frustrated with me about it.
Yeah, the biggest jerk in the world, Brian Aldridge, Infection Podcast. You can send hate mail to brian@infectionpodcast.com if you really hate him.
Jerk, Brian.
Yeah, that's his Twitter Twitter handle. Give him a follow. Brian, I through the magic.
Announce the
Yes.
Do you want to go ahead and announce those, or do you want to go ahead and announce the next giveaway just to be safe on time?
Let's do the giveaway.
Okay. So let me I am going to be giving away a copy of the Stanley Parable. So let me go ahead and get the points raffles. This will be exclamation point giveaway again. It'll be 30 points. It's a Stanley Parable. It's a really good game. I don't know if you guys if you had ever tried it, but I got it because it's one of those kind of storytelling games that I enjoy. I don't look at the prices right now because, man, everything's so cheap on there. But ignore the price; it usually costs a little bit more than that. But this is very positive. It's a really good game. The Stanley Parable. I put a link to it in chat, so you're more than welcome to check it out. But it's one of those comedy narration, indie, first person, funny. It has a really cool narrator voice on it that sits there, and it's it's really funny to play through. So because he's giving commentary as you're playing the game. So I would encourage you, if you don't have that game, exclamation point giveaway, and and we'll give it away here before the end of the show.
All right, Brian, I was actually able to pull up the links for all of those games that we've got listed that are on sale. So what I'm going to do here is, if you can read through them, I can pull them up on screen. So we,
okay.
and also for people watching and people listening, like we do with the winter sale, there will be a post, another post on the infectionpodcast.com website with a link to all of these games, to the Steam page. And this isn't an affiliate link. We're not getting any money for this. These are games that we talk about, we have talked about, we're interested in, that are on sale. So if you're interested in picking some of these up, these deals are good till, but I think all of them are good till July 5th when the sale ends.
Yep.
So check these out, and here we go.
All right, so we have Ark, which is 51% off, kind of an odd, funny number, but it is 51% off for the main Ark. And then if you want to get the bundle, it's 58% off. So for barely over $6 more, you could get the expansion pack for Scorched Earth as well with that. And so that is, and that's especially, you're getting this an opportunity before that big release happens. If you don't have the game, it's going to be pretty incredible what they do. If you don't have this game, and it's an amazing game, that's why we talk about it every single week. It's an amazing game to play, and it's really fun to play with friends. Very well built, an amazing dev team that they have on that. And then Rust, which it's a game that a lot of people are really into it. It's one of those games that you either love it or you hate it. But yeah, this Rust is on sale right now for 50% off. So you can get Rust for $9.99, which is a pretty good deal as well. H1Z1, both King of the Kill and Just Survive are on sale. So if you don't have King of the Kill, it is 50% off. So it's $9.99. And Just Survive, if for some reason you don't have that and you're listening to this, it is 50% off. It's $9.99. So you can get those, and maybe, I don't know. I always talk about the hackers. Maybe the hackers will buy an extra copy for later. Elite Dangerous, which is a game that I really enjoy. It is a very big learning curve. It is 50% off as well, but it is an incredible game. If you're looking for a game that can just anytime, like you could just go play for a couple hours and lose yourself in it. It's Elite Dangerous, $14.99 right now. You can get it with a season pass as well. Which it's 33% off right now. The season pass is $20.09. That the season pass for this gives you all those extra, like the commander, the landing on planets, all that's included in there when you get that. Miscreated is on sale, which is a beautiful game. We'll be doing probably a playthrough on this, and hopefully in the next month or two. But yeah, this is Miscreated, where you can check that out. Miscreated is 50% off, so $9.99. Excellent. And also we have 7 Days to Die. 7 Days to Die is a really fun game. They're getting ready to do a really big release on it here soon. So for $9.99, you can get it on that, and they're going to do their Alpha 16 release, which is just gigantic. Does a huge amount of improvements. Pretty soon after that, I think they're getting close to coming out of Alpha, because they've offered almost all of the things that they promised when they did the original kind of kickstart of it. Dead by Daylight is actually I'm going out of order. The Forest is another game that's really good. They're starting to expand it a little bit to where you're getting more and more players simultaneously. Before you can play like 4 people, but they're getting into where there's actually a server mode now, and you're able to get a decent number of people on there and actually have a real game going. But that's $10.04. Really good story in it. And it's a really fun game to play with a couple friends. Unique building system. The Long Dark, which is finally being released, I think here August 1st, they're doing their final release for this. A really good single player challenging game. If you're into true survival, not the PvP as survival, or if you really like an actual survival game, this is one of those true survival games. It's going to have more of a story mode as well that you can play, or you can just play pure survival on it. It's a really good game for $13.99. And then we have Dead by Daylight, which it's a very unique game. 40% off, $11.99. They have a bunch of you can get these packs that have like some masks for Payday 2 and things like that. But I think for this one, just the regular one, because you're not really getting too much extra from the deluxe edition. But they do have extra things that will give you some different skins and game modes that you can also add on to that game as well. And then one I threw in here just for the sake of it, the Valve Complete Pack. If you don't have this, this is something that has just a ton of games by Valve, like Portal 2, Portal. It has a lot of games that are really good, and they mark it down so much towards practically being given away at this time of the year. So it's a really good opportunity. Usually it's $200 worth of games. It's $17.52. Everything is 90% off. Gives you CS:GO, Portal 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Left 4 Dead. Just a ton of games. All the Half-Life series. So a really good deal. If you don't have that already, it's a good way to get a lot of really good games. So that is pretty much the Steam summer sale. The ones that I noticed, I mean, there's a lot of games on sale, but those are the ones I'm like, these are ones that either we played or we talk about. And if they weren't on sale, I didn't list them here. So there are some games we talk about that weren't on sale.
I've got two other ones here, too quick to note. Hide and Hold Out is 25% off. That's on sale for $13.50. You can get that. Again, they're in a rough spot right now. So, I mean, you may be flushing $14 down the drain. But, I mean, it's your choice.
And then maybe also supporting the developer to where they're able to finish it.
Yeah. Yes. And then I'm wearing my Firewatch shirt. Firewatch is 55% off. That's on sale for $8.99. It's not really it's not a game that we talk about all the time, but it's a really good game.
It's not a game that you really replay, but it's really worth it the first time.
It's worth it. It's worth it at $20. It's definitely worth it at $9. So you can check those out. Those are on sale. All of those sales go until July 5th. So you'll have until next Wednesday. So next week's show, those things will still be on sale, but you got until next Wednesday to do that. And then all the links for those will be on the website, infectionpodcast.com. There'll be a separate blog post with those sales. So there you go. That's it.
Very good. All right. Is there anything else we wanted to cover? I'll just mention. So Rust did updates. Elite Dangerous did a really pretty decent size update. We Happy Few. One thing I do want to mention with We Happy Few is they did change. They were planning on doing 2 updates before their final release, and they changed that to where they're going to be doing one bigger update between now and then they're packaging in those final things into their actual release. The reason they said that they're doing this, and we'll have a link to it where you can read the whole explanation. The reason that they're doing this is that right now they're running 2 builds of the game, and it's getting really difficult because they have one that has all the story and the quests and everything that they're trying to keep for the actual release, and then they have the one that people are able to play right now, and it's getting really difficult because they're implementing so much into this other one. It's getting really difficult for them to maintain those 2 different versions, and so they didn't think they could get that close, that next to last one in, and keep them separated without having just a bunch of crazy stuff happen. So they're changing that. They're rolling out one big, which is going to be a new biome update, and then they're going to be rolling out that final release, which is going to have a lot of the quests and different things in it. So We Happy Few, if you're interested in that announcement, we will have all this in our show notes. So if there's something we didn't show, you didn't get an opportunity to really go in depth on, check out our show notes. We've got a ton of links on it. That'll be on our website, infectionpodcast.com.
Yes. All right. You got a quick tip of the week here, Brian?
Yes. So tip of the week's where we go through and either I will talk about a gaming tip in general or a specific game. This week is on Battlegrounds. So this is tip of the week. All right. So for this tip, I wanted to discuss a little bit about the gunplay. So one thing that people don't always realize is that when you are looking down the sights of your gun, or right clicked and holding that down, you can change which shoulder your camera is looking over, and you can toggle that. So if you hit Q or E, it'll change that shoulder. It's really helpful when you're aiming around a corner, trying to see, perhaps lining up a doorway. And sometimes it's kind of difficult because will shoot the wall without realizing it because of the angle that you're looking. So the one thing you can do is tap Q or E, and it will swap which shoulder you're looking over. Also, one thing you can do is use Q and E when to lean around corners. So they have a mode that you can also hold it down, and it will lean your body over. This exposes less of your body and exposes mostly your upper body to be viewed, but it can help you to have a little bit less exposure, less chance of being shot. And another thing, I just figured I'd throw this one in as kind of a bonus. One thing you can do as well that not everybody realizes that haven't played these type of games is that when you're trying to do a long distance shot, some sort of a sniper shot, you can hold down the shift key and it holds your breath. And so that will steady it for a short period of time. It's kind of using the same mechanic of when you're holding your breath underwater. You can't do it forever, but you can hold down shift. It'll hold your breath. It'll show some lungs down there, and then you'll be able to get hopefully a little bit better shot off at a long distance without having that sway in there. So that is tip of the week. So just a little bit of information about using your gun more effectively. So.
Awesome.
All right.
Well,
as far as time, are we good? Is there anything else we need to cover before we do the final giveaway?
No, you're going to smush my last segment? You're going to smush current players on me? You're not going to let me do my segment?
Oh, we do. Well, usually we do that one first. So doing it out of order. I figure you weren't ready.
Oh, wait. I guess we did do that out of order.
Yeah,
no,
you did them out of order. So I figured you weren't doing it.
I'm always ready to go, Brian. We do have this,
okay.
And I do actually have these numbers. So this is the Just Survive test server update. So currently playing at 425, the 24-hour peak 550 in the 7-day 2032. That's for the test server. I would have thought those numbers were higher, but they're not. Moving on to King of the Kill, currently playing that 31,648, 24-hour peak 128,742, and obviously that 7-day peak is wrong on that. Arc moving on, 43,384 is your current, 64,327 is your 24-hour peak, 76,052 is the 7-day peak, and Battlegrounds, of course, as always, killing it in terms of current players. Currently playing that 107,124, the 24-hour peak, 236,180 in the 7-day peak, which was an all-time peak, again, hit on Sunday afternoon, 257,712. They will be at 300,000 probably by the end of August, if I had to guess.
Yeah,
probably about 2 months from now. So we'll see.
Pretty incredible. They're definitely impressive numbers. One thing I was wondering is how the ARC team is planning on handling with this release, because I can only imagine how many people, when they do this kind of final big deal release, how many people are going to be playing concurrently and how they're going to be dealing with that. Because it's kind of like a new game being released day one, right? They've got so many players that have purchased that game and maybe aren't playing currently, but just imagine how many people are going to be trying to jump in on official servers when they release. That'll be an interesting, I'm sure they're thinking of how to do. I'm sure at some point they'll maybe, I don't know, they can't, it's not a game where you can really merge servers or do any of that. So
no, it is definitely not.
Kind of makes an interesting situation when you have to handle that many players. Then what do you do with all those servers afterwards?
Yeah, who knows?
So I don't know.
I
don't have a good answer
I would think
for it, but I think they're going to have an issue.
I would think they're going to publicly announce what the idea is here in the next couple weeks, because they have to announce, are they doing a server wipe? Are they going
can't support
to
hundreds of more servers?
No, absolutely not.
After people stop playing.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll figure it out. I would imagine in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks we'll have that information. I would hope.
Yep. So we will figure it out. All right. So I'm going to pick the last winner here. So congratulations to Bat Chain Puller. So congratulations. Yep. I will send you, it'll be in your other messages. I will send you a link here and they'll let you redeem it. So congratulations. The Stanley Parable, really fun game to play. So.
Alrighty, Brian, where can people
anything else
find you online?
All right. If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, or you're more than welcome to check out my blog, biteoftech.com. That's BITE of tech.com. Of course, if you haven't already, go join our Discord group. We have a link on our website, infectionpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, there's a button that says join, and that'll put you right into our Discord channel, as well as if you're in our Steam group and you want to join that and get notifications of our weekly show, there's a button that says join Steam group. Also, if you're looking for ways to support the show, I encourage you to go check out. We've added that Humble Bundle option. So if you are going to be buying something from Humble Bundle, maybe if you have a monthly subscription, it'd be a good opportunity to cancel it and restart it under our link. Yeah, it's a good way to support the show without any money out of your pocket. So I think that is it.
Cool. Thanks for that, Brian. And next week's show is going to be a little bit weird as well. My goal is to have an interview. You will be out of the country, and I will be. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not next week's show.
That's in 2 weeks.
The week after. So next week's show will be normal. Actually, next week's show will be a day early, I think is what we've decided. We're going to do it on July 3rd.
Yes, because that's July 4th. So we're going to be doing our show on the 3rd rather than the 4th. And then we're working on an interview that will pretty much be the show the week after that. And then we can also probably pre-record a little. And we'll see what else we do beyond that interview. But we're hoping for a nice hour interview. And I don't think we've announced who that is. So officially. No. So that'll be exciting. He has agreed, but we just need to make sure on timing.
Yes. So yes, we will not see you on July 4th. It's America Day, and we're the best country in the world, so we'll be celebrating that. It's just a fact. So all of you European listeners, sorry, but you'll be able to watch the show a day early on Monday. But you can check that out, and then so we'll have a couple weird weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks in a row. Things will be a little off, but then we'll be back to our normal schedule live every Tuesday night. 7 p.m. Eastern on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next Monday.
See ya.
Alrighty, folks, you can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. You can join our Steam group, our Discord. You can stay notified for all of the different things that we're working on there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for episode 128 of Infection, the Survival Podcast. We'll see you next time.